Hi, welcome to Love Saranghae with Peter and Andrea. In the next 30 minutes, we'll take you on a journey into the exciting world of entrepreneurship, relationships, and the secrets behind achieving that coveted glow. Are you ready? Let's go.
Welcome back to another episode of Love Saranghae with us, Peter and Andrea. Today, we're all in for a very special treat. Joining us on the podcast this morning is a dear friend who also happens to be my co-mentor of our Rise and Shine mentorship program, my co-host of our North Farm retreat, my art teacher, as well as my children, and the brilliant founder of 123 Atelier, which is a gorgeous art studio and school for people 4 to 84, maybe older, depending who they are. But please join me in welcoming Nancy Macdonald. Today we're going to be diving into some ideas or concepts that Nancy and I have been working with deeply for the past several months now. The concept of persistence, the act of accountability, and making outrageous asks. Nancy, welcome. We're so happy to have you here
Thank
today.
you so very much, Peter and Andrea. I am so very fortunate to count you as my newish friends in the last couple of years, and also partners in some very interesting pursuits, which I'm very grateful for.
I feel like I'm going to be just a fly on the wall here. I feel like I'm going to be a fly on the wall for you two just kind of going at it, oh my goodness me, and I'll be just
we're loving on each other. Who are you?
Yeah. I might just leave every once in a while to get that chocolate bar that's in front of me and then come back. I don't know. But yes, I'm excited. This is for our guests who don't know, this is our first guest on our show. So please bear with us if we don't, execute this properly or make mistakes. I think it's gonna be fun, and I like to see what Nancy and Andrea talk about when I'm not around. So
eating chocolates. So Nancy, why don't we start by, and I would love it if you could just tell our audience a little bit more about who you are and what you do, so they can get to know you a little bit better.
Thank you so very much. So my name is Nancy Macdonald. I am the creative force behind Atelier 123, where I've had the great good fortune of bringing more than 7,000 beginners ages 4 to, let's say, 90 to create beautiful wall-worthy art of their dreams. So the important words here are beginner and large, impactful, bold, beautiful art that can remind them that they can do hard things and beautiful things.
Amazing.
Oh, I love that. I tell you, I have 2 paintings that I've done with Nancy and my son, who's now 8 years old. But in the span of probably 3 years, he's done 3 or 4 different paintings with Nancy, all on the wall. One in particular that many, many people have asked me. It's a Monet-inspired art piece. And I've got so many people asking me, where did you get that? Where did you buy that? That's gorgeous. And I'm like, my son made it when he was like 5. And everybody's like, what? And I'm like, it's Nancy, my art teacher. She's amazing. So anyway, if you have not experienced Nancy as your art teacher, you are missing out. And we will leave all of her information in the show notes and in the end of this recording so that you can get in touch with her and you can create something beautiful for your walls as well. Okay, so let's get started. I want to start with a quote that Nancy and I have used in our mentorship groups more than once. And I feel like it's a good way to sort of lead into this conversation. And basically, the quote is from Oprah. And it says, go ahead, live with abandon, be outrageous at any age. What are you saving your best self for? And I love this quote. And I feel like Nancy lives by this quote. Like this, if this quote was like written on her head, this would be her, because she does things that are way out of the box. She lives with abandon. She does all the things. And it's so admirable. So what does this mean for you, Nancy? Can you talk a little bit about how you live this quote and what it means for you?
I think it is a nod to how short life is, that we employ our childlike side, our feelings of empowerment. Children are not afraid to ask. They're not afraid to do. They're not afraid to share. They're not afraid to share. They're vulnerable. That's what it is to be a child.
Yeah.
So if we keep that alive and well in our hearts and in our pursuits, we can live life every day like it's our first. And I think that is the best way to feel alive, truly. I mean, the notion really moves me. And of course I forget, but when I stay on target, it just makes me feel so much gratitude and so much playfulness. And it's brilliant. It's a brilliant way to live. Thank you for that. Thank you for that nice intro.
Oh, you're most welcome. Peter, what does it mean for you? Let's call you in and bring you into this conversation.
Well,
what does
bring
this
a
mean
little
for
testosterone
you
in. Mean one, banana. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I completely agree with what Nancy is saying. I think we all of us here are here today because we all kind of believe in the same principles. Our lives have intersected together at this particular point in time because it was meant to be at this particular point in time. You're asking questions of a guy who took up mountain climbing at 45 years of age, right? A guy who started running marathons at 45, 47 years of age. I started my life late, and part of me regrets not starting my life a little earlier, like embracing this quote, go ahead, live with abandon, be outrageous at any age. What are you saving yourself best life for? Because I did save my best life for later. Like, I will do this when I earn more money. I will do this when I'm more established. I will travel. I will do backpacking when I'm 45. I mean, look how that turned out, right? I've
You
never
are backpacking, but with a baby.
Yeah. I've never been able to backpack around the world like Phuket and, Thailand and Vietnam. And I'll never be able to do that in the way that I could have when I was in my 20s. So do I believe it? Absolutely. With a little bit of regret, in fact.
You know what, Peter? I love that. And I'm so glad you spoke outwardly about some of the achievements and some of the amazing things you do. And I think we should take a moment and also talk about Andrea and the fact that this is a former non-public speaker, somebody who had not put pen to paper, somebody who had a different life in terms of her professional life. And she has leaned hard into what we all know we could call voluntary discomfort. The ability to, instead of taking the easy route, do something that really shakes things up, that really reminds us that we're alive. And this is my attraction to Andrea. And I don't get to spend as much time with Peter, but here's hoping. And my wish to be alongside her in this beautiful journey, because we hold these values in common, that we want to have that sense of playfulness, that sense of today's as good a day as any to do anything. And Andrea, I'm so proud to call you a friend and a business partner. And you're amazing in the things that you've done and things that you've achieved. And I'm so proud of you.
It made even better.
That.
The speech made even better by the British national anthem being played in the background.
Is this here or there?
Somewhere else. I don't know. I hear the British national anthem like reaching its crescendo as Andrea is speaking. I mean, Nancy speaking about Andrea. I'm like, woo, yes. What? Yes. It's more dramatic.
That's funny.
I second that. I second that, right? Because my wife has been, she's been supportive. She was a teacher when I met my wife. And she has been supportive of this business ever since the very first moment that we started together, really. But she wasn't really a part of it until recently. But she's never had any experience in skincare. And to just simply kind of jump in with both feet. And sometimes, there are things she doesn't know or things that seem monumental, a monumental challenge that you got to overcome. But she does it anyway. Damn the consequences or what people think about that. So that's very commendable and very brave because not a lot of people can do that, right?
Yeah, thank you. I received that. So
Okay.
I think one thing I'd love to talk about today, one thing Nancy and I spoke a lot about, and it kind of comes from this quote, is, being outrageous and making outrageous requests to the point where they're no longer outrageous and they're normal asks. And so during our Rise and Shine mentorship this past Q4, Nancy and I challenged our participants to 30 days of making at least one outrageous ask every day. And Nancy was she was participating in this too. It was her 30 days to change her life. And it was really incredible, some of the things that she asked and that came to her as a result of those asks. Nancy, first, how would you define an outrageous ask? And can you share an example of one of your outrageous asks that you committed to in that month?
I'd love to. Thank you. So for me, I think an outrageous ask is a stretch, a big stretch, a discomfort, something maybe that your inner voice might say, that's impossible. Kind of if you picture your life and achievements as climbing a ladder of goals, an outrageous ask is jumping several rungs. But what we really realize is that, and Andrea, you corrected me on this because of somebody in our coaching network shared with us, stop calling them outrageous asks. Drop the word outrageous because that's only perception. That's only inner voice. So let's just call them asks today. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
for fun. Let's try to practice that. So it's something that feels out of reach. It's a thing of beauty to see yourself bigger than you saw yourself yesterday, right? Because if we think about yesterday, it will feel like several rungs. But if we think about our future self who's in the position of the goal, it will actually just seem like just a regular ask because we are up to the task. So I feel very much that it combines two words that are very important to me in my life and my business: the playful and the profound. So it's playful in that it's going to hurt anybody. The ask is not going to hurt anybody. You are not forcing anybody. You're not even really selling. You're just asking. You're just sharing something you think this person might find useful, beautiful, important, critical, necessary. And you're putting it in front of them. And it's profound because it is a deep discomfort, perhaps. It is a moment of stretch. And it's probably going to be approaching a stranger, or it could be asking somebody really close to you in your life, in your inner circle, who for some reason you have some sort of hang up, asking something, presenting something to them, because maybe you think they don't see you that way, or they don't see your offer that way or your ask. So it's a shakeup. So I think that's the first part of your question. The second part is recently, what did I do that was an ask? Okay, felt outrageous at the time. It was definitely playful, and it ended up being very profound for me in my business. And it was actually almost a year ago that I was at a restaurant opening, and the restaurant owner and founder I met them in a kind of expedient way. Well, okay, so I sort of made it happen, but I didn't want to do any asking on the spot. I wanted to respect. But later, so I said hello, complimented them because I truly felt what they were doing was grand and special. And I reached out after and said, we met, and I'd love to tell you about what I do because I'd love to work with your family. And 9 months later, they saw the request in DMs.
Didn't they fly in from somewhere to work with you?
They did come in from Montreal. Yeah, they did come in from Montreal. And they did the largest family portrait I've ever worked on with a family.
That was beautiful, by the way.
Thank you. I know it's still here. It's still here.
It was so impressive.
It's massive.
Yeah.
Like you walked into the basement, and like all your senses kind of heighten, and the hairs in the back of your head go up because you see this massive masterpiece of a painting that you knew was painted by love from a family, right? Yeah. And it's like everything what I just mentioned is embedded in a painting. And I was so impressed.
Yeah. We talked about that art for a while after the art show. That was at Nancy's art show about a week ago from the time of recording this in December. And that piece of art really stuck out for us. It was gorgeous.
Oh, it's incredible.
Thank you.
So, Peter, do you want to add anything to this about outrageous asks? Have you done anything in your life that is or you might have thought was outrageous at the time?
I mean, outrageous asks
that we can share on live.
Well, now that we're on the subject, I was gonna ask if I can climb the Himalayas no, just kidding.
No.
Let's go 8,000 meter mountains. Woohoo! I might come back alive. I might not. Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Anyway, moving on.
No, I'm stumped as to because Nancy's exactly right. And I love she said this and I love how you corrected her in that sense as well, is that it's not really an outrageous ask. It just seems like an outrageous ask at that moment, right? Like it's just, everything is so relative. And you don't really change. You just simply change the way you see things. And so I look back at my life and all the things I thought were outrageous asks, outrageous events, things I don't think I deserved in my life, etc. And now I think to myself, why did I even think like that before? And that happens now. What we think about outrageous asks today, when 5 years from now, it's not going to look like an outrageous ask. So just go do it, right? Just make it an ask.
Love it.
Right?
Love it, yeah. Peter. Yeah. And I know you live that way, and it's very inspiring.
I think the thing that I think about here is like, someone said this once, is that the time is going to pass anyway. So how are you spending that time? Like, how are you using that time? You have a choice. Like, are you going to waste it and make yesterday the same day as today, the same day as tomorrow? Are you going to do something, actively do something to change the course of your life or the direction of your life in the way that you want it to go? So
exactly.
It is a choice.
If you're going to ask, you might as well ask big, right? Like if I'm going to ask to go mountain climbing to Mount Washington, I might as well say, why don't I just take on, Mount Everest?
This is not going the way you want it to.
I know. Who wrote this script?
But I put the bee in the bonnet. Okay. I'm just kidding.
Boy's had too much chocolate. He's had too much chocolate today.
I'm just kidding. But no, I completely agree with you guys on that one.
Oh, that's great. That we have that on
we've talked. Exactly.
So, Nancy, the other thing that I really want to talk to you about, because I find this really, you're one of the few people, you and Peter actually, oddly, that you're both on this podcast with me, is the way that you set up your life to hold yourself accountable to do the thing that you really want to do. So whether or not you want to do them that morning, you have these goals or these, things that you say that this is important to me, this is important to my health, this is important to my well-being, this is important to my business. And then you create situations or setups to ensure that you get those things done, especially on the days when you really don't want to. And so this is the accountability piece that we talk a lot about. Nancy and I, Peter and I, we're always talking about how can we hold ourselves accountable to ensure that we achieve the goals that we set out to achieve, most especially on the days that we really don't want to. So for Peter, that would be getting up at 4 a.m. and going for his run in the dark, in the cold. It's raining, snowing, whatever. Peter has like a system that sort of sets him up for success to ensure that he gets out the door that morning. Nancy also has a system that sets her up. In her case, it's things like her morning 7 a.m. swim at the farm. She creates an accountability group around that to ensure that she gets up every morning at 7 o'clock because there's people waiting for her. So Nancy, can you speak a little bit more about your accountability and how you sort of create that in your life?
Well, it's so interesting that you hold people up to this great standard because they have accountability systems. I will do that for Peter because he's up at 4 and nobody's running with him. But for me, it's actually a surefire way of reinforcing a better version of myself. So actually it's preventing me from being a little bit lazy or a little bit yesterday, you know? I'm looking at our fence in our backyard and the wind is pushing it like this because the foundation's a little weak. And so we have to get it fixed. But in the meantime, we have accountability. We have support on either side. We've created support on either side. It's not unlike creating that support system in your life, whether it is through a great network of people. So maybe Peter, and you'll speak to this, Peter, but maybe Peter is able to do all of these things on his own because he's half addicted to it now. It's a positive habit and he just doesn't feel right without it. And I can certainly agree with that for myself. I'm better if I've had movement during the day and pushed a little hard, but also maybe he's visualizing his climbing partners. I don't want to let them down. I don't want to be the quote unquote weak link or whatever the case might be. I want to be a team player. So it's surrounding yourself with this team that actually supports you and systems in place that hold you accountable, whether maybe, you know, your Achilles is, okay, I paid for it and I didn't go. So if you pay for the gym membership, if that works for you, if that's not enough, you meet somebody there or you pick them up on the way to the gym, whatever it is. And it's the same thing for things in business. Entrepreneurs are typically on their own a lot, and you have to create a community that is kind of represents the best version of you because you will want to come up to their level. They kind of hold you up. They support you. So I think it's a combination of things, systems, community, and then habit forming.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. All of that and more, yes to all of it, right? And Nancy's broken down that into bite-sized ideas that you can actually kind of gesticulate and make it your own. I love that. When I was younger, I remember we would ask each other selves, I have a great idea for a business. And people would say, and you would say, okay, tell us the idea. And a lot of the young people would say, oh, I can't tell you that idea because it's such a great idea that you might steal it, right? And then over time, you realize ideas are a dime a dozen, right? Ideas they're everywhere. It's the execution that matters. No matter how small or big the idea, it's never about the idea itself. It's about execution of the idea. Look at our business in skincare. We compete with 20,000 other brands. So it's not we don't have a grand idea of creating great skincare products. It's been done, and there'll be others after us. We execute really well, and so it's really about how do I execute properly, and that execution goes from a long-term goal down to your hourly goal. Like, and Andrea will attest to this. The reason why I'm such a stickler for time, I need to be out of the house by 7:50. I got to be in the office by 8:15. I must be on the treadmill by 11:30. The reason why this is so is because I have a goal. I have a micro goal that happens hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and over the years. These are goals, and these are milestones I've set, and I have figured out a way to reach each one. And if I do reach each one, it's a momentum, and that momentum carries me through. Momentum works both ways, right? And there's a rolling stone gathers no moss. Everybody knows that statement. But a stable stone or a static stone will gather moss. It works both ways. So if I'm not moving forward, if I'm not building the momentum holds me back. There's no. I always say to my wife, if you're not growing, you're dying. It's one way or the other. So choose, right? And so that's it. That's really just speaking. I'm just really elaborating on what Nancy said because she hit the nail around the head.
Peter, you're really talking about the gap between the brilliant idea or some privilege of being ahead in some way, right? To a starting point, and the actual action, putting in place, micro steps, as you say, or micro goals in service of that bigger goal. Yep. And the difference there, the piece in the middle of those two things is basically persistence, right,
I was
Andrea?
just going to say that,
which
Nancy.
we've talked so much about. We've talked so much about
You took it
because
out of my mouth.
it's the magic.
Exactly.
It's the magic. And I had a very good family friend who used to say, he's no longer with us, but his words just so often, 90% of life is showing up.
Yep.
And that the showing up equals that persistence. Showing up for your runs, showing up for your family, showing up for yourself, showing up in service of your goal. And that's what sets your company
Absolutely.
apart. And I'm going to say too that people are attached to your products because they're also attached to the two of you. And I think that that's a big part of it too. But that's maybe a story for another day.
Thank you for saying that, because I
you,
feel that
Nancy.
way. I feel that way. I do. I feel like I obviously love our products. I use them and I stand behind them because I think they're amazing. But it's also like I love what I do, and I think Peter loves what he does, and we do it well together, and we are persistent. So we've been through a lot, and anyone looking from the outside might say, oh, you guys are so lucky, you guys have no idea what we've been through. We've been through a lot, but we are so persistent in the face of adversity, in the face of our goal doesn't change. If anything, our goal gets bigger. And
Agreed.
the asks get bigger. And I'm less afraid to, like, what do I have to lose, right? Like, at this point, I'm just like, go for it. Like, at the end of this, at the end of my life, I don't want to say, I wish I did that.
Yeah. I mean, look, we have been lucky for sure. We have our health, we have our kids, we have each other. I mean, and we have great friends. So we've definitely been lucky. I'm not going to downplay that. But Andrea will support me when I say this. I used to say, we're going to win because we're going to be the last one standing. Like,
Damn it.
Yeah, it's not because I have some great technology or because I have, unlimited number of... No. I come hell or high water, at the end of the day, we're going to be the last one standing. That's it. Just show up. 70% is showing up.
Yeah. And we each have our own belief in that. Like, I don't believe that Peter's going to save me. And I don't think he believes that I'm going to save him either. But I believe that I'm going to save us. And I think he believes that he's going to save us. And I think that combined, and Nancy, you the same. Like, you've always been like, I'm going to make this happen. I don't care how it happens. You've had your own, like, life things where you've had to stand up and say, it's going to be me. There's no other way.
I think it's interesting that the word luck has come up, and I really bristle against that. I mean, I cannot deny that, I was very fortunate to be born in this, this part of the world with a family that loved me and had resources. Yes. But beyond that, it's what you do with what you got. And it's what you do to get what you don't got if you need it.
Agreed.
100%.
So I think I don't love the word luck too much.
Yeah, I agree.
I think there's mindset, which we work on so much. Andrea and I love to spend time really trying to get to our highest mindset.
So, Nance, what advice would you give to someone who was hesitant to make bold asks or unsure, when to persist and when to back off? And like, what advice would you give to someone who's listening to this and sort of in that stuck place or of uncertainty? What would you say to them?
I think that people would never recognize how different they will feel if they start to create those magic moments of empowerment. They will never have more fun than when they employ the bold ask, the bold living, the bold life. They will never feel more authentic, more true to themselves, and set a great example for people around them. I mean, the two of you seem to be very similar in this. And I think what's probably happening in your household and in your office is, you're just helping each other to be your best selves and the other person to be their best selves. So I'd say surrounding yourself with people you admire, people who hold you up and celebrate your wins. I think that there are 3 components to a really great ask. And this is something to keep in mind. Make it fun for you. I don't mean silly, but I mean, make it playful. Make it bold. Why not? Why not? You're going to be dead one day, so why not? And be detached from the outcome. This is a tough one.
Yep.
So if we're going to say be detached from a negative outcome, we also need to balance that with being detached from a positive outcome.
Absolutely.
In other words, I have to stop telling that story about the restaurant. I need some new stories, right? It's great, but I can't float on that one forever. It was exciting, but we need to keep that playful spirit, but really not care about how it ends up, because that will allow us to just remove the ego. And I think that's our biggest work. It's very hard to do.
Yes.
I'm not going to deny it's very hard to do.
It took me until I was in my 40s to really get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And putting myself in an uncomfortable situation is becoming more and more normal. And now it's kind of my guide. So if I feel uncomfortable about something, like somebody wants to do an Instagram live with me, or somebody invites me to speak in front of, female entrepreneurs, whatever it is, those things make me really uncomfortable. But whenever I have that feeling, that's when I know that's where I'm going. Like that's 100% I say yes. Because I know that is my stepping stone to the next level of myself and to the next level of a business and so on. So getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
I love that so much. And I saw it in you day one, and I'm thinking, I need to be with that person more. I love her.
That's what I said 10 years ago.
Right? Right? And how outrageous was the ask of her marrying you?
That was an interesting story. Yeah. Yeah, that was an interesting story. Yeah.
That
was a great story.
They just ask.
Yeah, I mean,
at that time.
Just a quick story. We met and I proposed to her after 6 months. We got married after 9. So 9? Is that 9?
No, it's a year and a half that we got married. But
I proposed.
Yeah,
it's 6, 8 months. Sorry, yeah, 8 months. Yeah, and let me tell you, when I went to see her dad to ask for her hand in marriage, because my wife is very traditional. And I appreciate that. My hands were soaked in sweat. Like, it was literally dripping in sweat. I was so nervous. It was crazy. And I had my best Sunday duds on. Not like now.
Yeah. I love that. I love that so much.
He's the best salesman
Did he
ever.
give you...
But even my dad didn't sit there. What did my dad say to you? What was his one-liner? I'll never forget it because it's on my dad. He asked, I'll tell you, save time, we're out of time. So I'll tell you. He said, yes, for now.
Yeah. I remember that.
But the
answer is yes, for now.
I love it.
That was it. So as we come to the end of this podcast, Nancy, this was so much fun. I hope you'll come back and join us again. I know our audience is going to fall in love with you after this conversation. Is there anything you want to end with? Is there anything you want to say before you close off our session today?
Well, the advice I had recently, instead of persisting really forever with one particular person, be in service of being persistent to the goal, not to one particular scenario.
Yes.
I love that.
I think that was good advice for me, and I just got it this week.
Great
so I'm
advice.
always learning.
Great advice.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't
Is there anything you want to leave our audience with before we end today?
I'll give you a lesson my old sales manager used to give me, which is every time you get a no, you're one step closer to a yes. Probability-wise, when you ask 10 big asks, 8 out of 10 will say no, but the 2 will say yes. So work on that time frame. Right? Don't get personal. Don't get attached, like Nancy was saying, to every single ask.
Yeah.
You're going to get 1 out of 5. Just look at that math. So that's how I live my life.
We want to be the authors of our life, right?
Absolutely.
We want to be the authors. We want to drive the bus.
Drive the bus.
Drive that bus.
Exactly. Drive the bus. Just go for it. That would be mine. You have nothing to lose, and who cares what other people think? They're too busy thinking about what other people think about them. So thank you for joining us, Nancy, for your time today. Thank you, everyone, for being here on our Love Saranghae podcast with us, Peter and Andrea. We hope today's episode inspired you to make those quote-unquote just asks, to be persistent in your goals, and to hold yourself accountable to the dreams that you hold near and dear. Very special. Thank you, Nancy Macdonald, for being with us today and for sharing your wisdom and experience with us. If you would like to learn more about how you can connect with Nancy or how to work with her, please see the show notes or send her a DM on Instagram at Atelier123CA. So that's at ATELIER123CA. Remember, beauty isn't just skin deep. It's in the courage to ask, the discipline to persist, and finding the joy in the process. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Love Saranghae with us, Peter and Andrea. If you've enjoyed this episode, leave us a review. Your ratings and reviews help more people like you find our show. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and share this podcast with someone you think would love it. Until next time, love yourself, love one another, and love the world.